Ukrainian astronomers filmed more than 20 enormous objects near and across the moon in 2025. Disc-shaped craft estimated 15 to 25 miles wide. Ring-shaped objects rotating so fast they could generate artificial gravity, moving with purpose, pulsing in unison, behaving like technology, not rock or debris. The official story stays polite. Anomalies needs more data. NASA still finds no evidence of alien technology on the moon. That is the version they want you to repeat. Here is what is actually happening. These are not new visitors. These are not random explorers who just arrived. The moon has been part of the infrastructure of this realm for a very long time. It is a staging platform, a monitoring station, a frequency node that sits directly above the farm. The craft they are finally allowing you to see belong to the same hierarchy we have been mapping. Some are operated by the middle management, the Greys, and their associated technician races, the ones who handle logistics, genetic work, and the day-to-day maintenance of the prison. Others answer to higher levels, the ones who rarely show biological form at all. The hidden architects, the cold intelligence that designed the enclosure, the ice wall, and the recycling system itself. They do not need to live on the moon, they simply use it. The ring-shaped objects are especially interesting. That design is not for transport. It is for generating and stabilising fields, artificial gravity, possibly local frequency control. The kind of technology you place above a closed system when you want to keep the walls intact and the cattle contained. The moon is not a natural satellite in the way you were taught. It is a constructed node. Its size, its distance, its locked rotation, its strange composition, none of it behaves like a random captured rock. That is not accident, that is engineering. The giant craft now being filmed are not visitors docking at a neutral outpost. They are maintenance and logistics units for a facility that has been operational for a very long time. Some of those craft belong to the technician races, the ones who handle the physical work, genetic harvesting, frequency adjustments, transport of materials and personnel between the surface of the Earth and the higher platforms. The Greys and their related lines are the most visible of these workers. They are the ones the control disclosure is slowly introducing because they are the most acceptable face of the system, but they do not own the moon, the ones who do rarely take biological form. The hidden architects, the cold intelligence that designed the enclosure itself. They do not need ships in the way we understand ships. They move through fields, through geometry, through the underlying structure of the realm. When they require physical presence, they use the technician races as intermediaries. The ring-shaped objects are the clearest signature of their technology. Those are not transport vessels. They are field generators, platforms designed to create and stabilize local gravity and frequency environments. The kind of technology you place above a closed system when you need to keep the walls intact and the energy flowing in one direction, only downward, into the harvest. This is why the official narrative will never fully open the moon. They can admit to anomalies. They can release blurry footage of large objects. They can even allow the idea of a base to circulate. What they cannot allow is the public understanding that the moon is an active control platform for the prison you are living in. Every time another piece of this becomes visible, it is not progress. It is pressure management. The farm is under strain. Too many souls are remembering fragments. The old cover stories are failing. So the architects release the next controlled chapter. Yes, there is activity on the moon. Yes, the craft are large. Now wait for the experts to explain it to you. Do not wait. The ones operating those craft are not preparing to greet humanity. They are maintaining the infrastructure that keeps humanity contained. This is not a dead rock that happened to fall into the perfect orbit. This is a placed object. Giant craft now being filmed are simply the visible traffic of a facility that has been running for a very long time. Some of those vessels belong to the technician races, the ones who perform the physical labour of maintenance, transport and genetic work. Others answer to higher currents that do not require biological bodies at all. Hidden architects do not live on the moon. They use it. It is a relay, a monitoring station, a frequency stabiliser that sits directly above the enclosure and helps keep the walls from fluctuating. When the controlled disclosure allows stories about UFOs on the moon to surface, it is never out of generosity. It is because the old silence is no longer sustainable. Too many independent observers are recording the same objects. Too many anomalies are stacking up, so the system releases a managed version of the truth. Yes, there is activity. Yes, the objects are large. The experts are looking into it. What they will never release is the operating manual. They will never admit that the moon was positioned as part of the original architecture of this realm. They will never admit that the craft are not explorers. They are staff. They will never admit that the same intelligence that designed the ice wall and the reincarnation loop also claimed the sky above you. Every new leak about lunar UFOs is another pressure valve being opened. The structure is under stress. The farm is having to show more of its infrastructure than it ever wanted to. And the reason they are doing it carefully, piece by piece, is because they know what happens when enough people stop asking, "What are those lights?" and start asking, who built the prison that needed a moon in the first place? That is the question that breaks the spell. That is the question this entire controlled reveal is designed to prevent you from reaching. Here is the part they will fight hardest to keep buried. The moon is not only a platform, it is a mirror. Its surface reflects more than sunlight. It reflects the frequency of the realm below it. Every major energetic shift on Earth, every mass trauma event, every coordinated wave of fear or hope, every collective emotional spike registers on the lunar node. The craft moving across its face are not just transporting materials or personnel. Some of them are reading the harvest in real time. That is why the timing of these sightings matters. When public attention reaches a certain intensity, when too many people begin asking the wrong questions, the system adjusts the story. It allows a new layer of evidence to surface so that the pressure has somewhere safe to go. Look at the giant objects on the moon. Isn't that fascinating? The scientists are studying it. Meanwhile, the deeper mechanism continues undisturbed. The hidden architects do not need to hide every craft. They only need to hide the purpose. As long as the conversation stays on, are they alien or is there a base? The real function remains protected. The moon continues to act as a stabilizer, a monitor and a control point for the enclosure. The technician races continue their work. The frequency fence stays tuned. The reincarnation loop keeps turning. The lunar node is not permanent. That is the secret they are most afraid will surface. The moon was positioned as a stabilizer, a monitor and a frequency anchor. But like every other piece of the architecture, it is subject to entropy. It requires maintenance, it requires adjustment, and over long cycles, it begins to drift out of perfect alignment with the original design. That is why the traffic has increased. The giant craft now being recorded are not simply routine operations. Some of them are repair crews, some are measurement teams, some are emergency responders to fluctuations in the field that the node is supposed to keep stable. The more stress the farm experiences from below, the more souls begin to remember, the more the frequency fence is challenged. The harder the lunar platform has to work to compensate. This is why the controlled reveal is accelerating. The controlled reveal is not failing, it is evolving. They are learning how much of the infrastructure they can show without the cattle realizing they are looking at the walls of their own prison. And that is the quiet arrogance at the center of all of this. They believe that even if you see the ships, even if you accept that the moon is occupied, you will still not ask the only question that matters. Who designed a realm that required a permanent artificial node in the sky just to keep its prisoners from remembering they could leave? That question is the one the entire disclosure apparatus is built to prevent. Everything else, the blurry footage, the careful scientific language, the timed leaks, is theatre. The stage is getting brighter. The actors are being forced to show more of the set. But the script is still theirs, until enough of us stop watching the performance and start examining the structure of the theatre itself. If the lunar node ever fails completely, if the stabilizing field it generates can no longer be maintained, the effects on the realm below would be immediate and catastrophic for the farm. Tides, climate, biological cycles, and the subtle frequency environment that keeps the reincarnation loop smooth would all begin to unravel. They are not preparing to greet humanity. They are fighting to keep the lid on. The giant objects racing across the face of the moon are the visible edge of that fight. The real war is not between humans and aliens. It is between a prison that is starting to crack and the intelligence that still believes it can hold the walls together. Watch the moon carefully. It is no longer just watching us. It is struggling to hold its position. They can no longer keep the moon completely dark. Too many independent observers are catching the same objects. Too many anomalies are stacking up in the public record, so they allow the next managed chapter. Yes, there is activity. Yes, the objects are large. Scientists are investigating. What they will never say is that the activity is increasing because the system is under strain. The enclosure is being pressured from both sides, from below by the slow waking of the prisoners, from above by the growing instability of the very node that was meant to keep them contained. The hidden architects are being forced to show more of their infrastructure than they ever planned. Every new leak about lunar craft is not a gift of transparency. It is a symptom of a structure that is beginning to require visible intervention. And here is the part that should make the blood run cold. John Carter wasn't fiction. The giant craft on the moon are only one part of the traffic. There is another system running quietly alongside them. Portals, not the soft, romantic version from the old stories. Hard, functional gateways that move personnel and materials between Earth, the lunar node, and further points in the local system, including Mars. The John Carter stories were never pure invention. Edgar Rice Burroughs was writing in a time when certain knowledge was still leaking through the cracks. A man from Earth suddenly finding himself on Mars, able to travel between worlds without a conventional ship. That is not fantasy. That is a description of portal technology dressed up as adventure, so the public would file it under entertainment and stop looking closer. They can even allow talk of bases and non-human biologics. What they cannot allow is the public understanding that a functional network of portals has linked the local planets for a very long time, and that the same intelligence which built the enclosure also built the roads that run above it. The craft are the visible traffic. The portals are the quiet infrastructure. Together they form a closed logistics system designed to service the farm without ever needing to explain itself to the cattle. And the reason more of it is becoming visible now is the same reason everything else is leaking. The structure is under pressure. The old silence is no longer holding, so they release the next managed pieces while still protecting the operating principle. The network is older than the story they told you about space. It was here before the current cycle of history began. The portals were never human technology. That is the final layer of this particular thread. Gates that move between Earth, the lunar node, and Mars, and likely further points still hidden, were already in place long before any modern secret space program began trying to map or control them. The John Carter stories, the sudden breakthroughs in certain black budget research, the quiet disappearances and reappearances that never make the official record, all of it points to a transit system that was inherited, not invented. The technician races use it. The higher currents of the hidden architects maintain it. And every so often a human stumbles through or is deliberately sent through, and the experience is later buried under fiction, classified files, or psychiatric labels. This is why the controlled disclosure will only ever dance around the subject. They can show you blurry craft on the moon. They can even allow talk of bases and non-human biologics. What they cannot allow is the public understanding that a functional network of portals has linked the local planets for a very long time, and that the same intelligence which built the enclosure also built the roads that run above it. The craft are the visible traffic. The portals are the quiet infrastructure. Together they form a closed logistics system designed to service the farm without ever needing to explain itself to the cattle. And the reason more of it is becoming visible now is the same reason everything else is leaking. The structure is under pressure. The old silence is no longer holding. So they release the next managed pieces while still protecting the operating principle. The network is older than the story they told you about space. It was here before the current cycle of history began, and it is still running.